Okay. I think we're good on YouTube. Let me just get us going here on Instagram. Okay, I think we are live on Instagram and on YouTube. So let's dive right in. For those of you who don't know me or you're new here, my name is Allison Egidi. I am a pediatric sleep coach located in Charlottesville, Virginia. And I'm the founder of Sleep and Wellness Coach, which I started in 2016. It'll be 10 years in June. And I work with children 0 to 17 and help parents improve their children's sleep. So every month since June of 2016, I have offered a free monthly Q&A. And so I generally call it nap chat because it usually happens around noon. And that's often nap time. So this is my nap chat. The way it works is I had a post that went up yesterday on Instagram inviting people to submit a question in advance. I got a handful of those. I will start with those questions. But if you are popping in and you did not get a chance to submit a question about your child's sleep and you have one, go ahead and put it in the comments of this video. And after I get through the pre-submitted questions, I am happy to take any live questions that come up here in this hour. I just have a hard stop at 1 because I have a consultation then. So that's how this works. And then the other thing I want people to know is, particularly if you're coming back to watch the replay and you did not get a chance to participate, is that I have a podcast called How Long Till Bedtime, where I cover a variety of sleep topics. So you may be able to search back through and find an episode that covers your question. You can always come back next month for a nap chat, or you can visit sleepandwellnesscoach.com and go to the Work With Us page, and you can see how you can work with me or the other sleep coaches on my team. I have 2 other wonderful sleep coaches, Sophie and Ellen. And so you can learn about how you can work with us one-on-one, or I also have some kind of online on-demand workshops that you can find on the website as well. So you can always check out sleepandwellnesscoach.com. Okay, let me dive in here to the questions, and I'll say the handles as best I can. The Instagram handles sometimes give me a run for my money. All right. Kate798 said, my 8-month-old still takes 3 naps per day and so far does not show signs of needing to drop the 3rd nap. He has always had a big sleep need. His naps are at 8:30, 12, and 4 each day. The 8:30 and 12 naps have gotten more erratic and started to shorten sometimes recently, usually to 45 minutes. Should we move the start times back a little bit on those? And is this a sign we should be dropping the 3rd nap, even though he still always sleeps well on that one? He sleeps 7:30 to 7 at night, so night sleep remains solid. So that is the most important piece, I think, is what's happening with the night sleep. So is the night sleep still solid? And sounds like it is. And so just as a way of education for everyone listening, I typically recommend babies transition down to from 3 to 2 naps right around 8 months, usually 7.5 to 8 months. And my general rule of thumb is if you reach 8 months and you have a baby that's still taking 3 naps beautifully and sleeping well at night, then you can hang on to those 3 naps a little bit longer. My really hard cutoff, where it's really unusual that there won't be some sort of negative impact, is kind of the 9-month mark. And so either by 9 months or if you start to see a negative impact. I have a little bit of hesitation in this situation with those first 2 getting shorter, because what that leads me to believe is he is having that shift in his rhythm. And it could result potentially in him not getting enough day sleep because he's sleeping outside of his ideal nap windows. And when the naps start to really shrink, he could get overtired and actually could make the nights worse. So I do think you could test out um, shifting him. How would it, depending which one's short. So if both of them are short sometimes, shift him out to kind of test out that 8:45, 9 window, and then test out that 12:15, 12:30 window. And then you may need the 4 o'clock may still work, or you may need to move that to 4:15 or 4:30. But if that is not fixing it, we don't want to do shifting into weird no man's land. Then I would test out the 2 nap schedule. So, yes, you could shift 15 or 30 minutes on those first 2 and see if it stabilizes his naps again. And if it doesn't, and if the night sleep starts to be negatively impacted, then go ahead and think about shifting to 2 naps. So, hopefully that helps. I'm thrilled that his night sleep is going so well and that he's napping well. These are wins. Okay. Fly High Cat said, "Hi, Allison. I took the Have Baby Need Sleep training with you when we had our second baby. He's now 2 years, 1 month, breastfed until his second birthday in December. He still takes 1 nap, 12 to 2:30. His bedtime is consistently between 7:30 and 8, and he was waking up for 1 feeding up until I weaned him. It's been 5 weeks since he is still waking through the night. At first, I was looking for the feeding, but then it was with an excuse. His blanket fell off, can't find his little bear security blanket, scared of a gorilla." Oh, that's an interesting one. We could go down a whole rabbit hole on that. "His night wakings have increased. Used to be just once. Now, some nights, it can be even 3 times. His day usually starts at 7:30. What can we do? A couple nights ago, we purchased your How to Quickly Recover from a Sleep Regression program. Do you think this is what we need?" Oh, yes, you got ahead of it. Yes. So that workshop, for anyone else, I have this $27 on-demand workshop that is how to quickly recover from a sleep regression for 15 to 30-month-olds. And yes, to answer your question here, perfect workshop with all the details I would want you to have. I'll just say a couple things on what you shared here. I like your nap time and length. I would shift that bedtime earlier, and particularly now. Like, if you told me he's going to bed, if he's sleeping 7:30 to 7:30 and everything's going great, even 8 to 7:30, fantastic. That falls into my category of it ain't broke, let's not fix it. But now you're getting more wakings. And so now the chance of him being in overtired state from this kind of regression, which sounds like it was somewhat triggered by the weaning, is going to be high. And so when we move into the overtired state, sometimes we get on that overtired, fragmented sleep hamster wheel. So he's overtired, and so sleeping better, he sleeps worse, which then he means he's more overtired, and then is sleeping better, he sleeps worse, and around he goes. And so we have to break the cycle. And the absolute easiest way to break that cycle is to go with an extra early / what I like to call recovery bedtime to snap them out of the cycle. So that's step 1. So I would move that bedtime up to like lights out at 7, and then follow what I say in the workshop that you purchased. I won't rehash it here. Follow the instructions in the workshop on what to say about all the extras that you're getting. I also just want to make a note on the gorilla concept. So that's a very specific I'm scared of concept. So my first thought in this example, and this can be so good for any parent listening when this happens, when it's something like that, I'm scared of a gorilla. Boom. Where did the gorilla come from? This is something you're asking yourself. Where did the concept of the gorilla come from? Typically, it's a show, a movie, or a book. Immediately remove that from the repertoire. We are not watching the show with the gorilla anymore. We are not reading the book with the gorilla. We are taking a break from the gorilla. And then this is another great concept for the gorilla. What do you say specifically says about the gorilla? Scared of the gorilla. Okay, I'm scared of the gorilla. Good news. Well, first I'd say, oh my gosh, I know you watched that show about the gorilla and you have an amazing imagination, which is so great. But I think your imagination's gotten a little carried away and it's making you feel worried about the gorilla. So we're going to take a break from watching the show about the gorilla. But I do have good news. It would be impossible for a gorilla to get in your room. There are no gorillas that live by us except for maybe in the zoo if you live near a zoo. A gorilla will never be in your room. So that's the good news. So, and then forge ahead. So we acknowledge it. If we know where it came from, we acknowledge where it came from. We let them know their imagination got carried away. And we state the facts. We don't need to worry about the gorilla because the gorilla will not be here. So I often get kids that will be like scared of a shark from watching some show on a shark. Same sort of thing. It'll be impossible for a shark to ever be in your bedroom. So glad you got the workshop. Yes, implement the workshop to answer your question. Okay. I have 3 more questions that were pre-submitted, and then I'm happy to take live questions from you guys. Okay. The linger movement is the handle. Curious about your suggestion on helping a 14-week-old start to fall asleep independently so we can get away from always needing to fall asleep being rocked or on me. She sleeps fairly well with 1 or this week 2 and a bit more fussiness wake-ups in the night after sleeping on me and my husband for an hour or so. A habit we've gotten into but isn't ideal, and I'd like to figure out routine and timing for the evenings as her sleep patterns seem to be in a period of shifting. Yes. Her daytime bassinet naps are 30 to 45 minutes max, but I always have to put her in asleep. I wish you had just been in the class. I just taught a live newborn class. I wish you had been there. You would have been a perfect fit for it. Okay, here's what I would recommend. So there's a lot happening here. First, I want to just provide, sometimes I think knowledge is power, or understanding what's happening is powerful or relieving. Maybe it's just me. Between 12 and 16 weeks, there is a lot happening developmentally as it relates to sleep. It's when babies make the biggest leap as it relates to getting a mature sleep cycle and getting a more mature circadian rhythm. And so I think that what I think most of us refer to as the 4-month sleep regression very often actually kicks in closer to 3 months. It kicks in that 12 to 16 week window because this huge leap is happening. So without having all the details, because there's so much that can happen in this window, here are some just kind of go-to tips for this window. Test out having a bedtime that's between 7 and 8 p.m. So it sounds like you've started to see some signs that the bedtime, her bedtime could be moving forward, or you're seeing some signs of tiredness. Even if it's not already that early, shift it into that either 6:30 to 7:30 window or 7 to 8. Usually by 16 weeks, I like it to be no later than 7. So something to keep in mind. And then, what's your other thing? Start practicing the first nap of the day, putting her down drowsy but awake, and think about a short wake window. So I don't live religiously by wake windows, which is a whole nother thing I went into in this workshop, but wake windows are not technically supported by science or evidence whatsoever. If they work, great, but I don't think you have to be religious about it. So what I would say though is do focus on that first wake window and think about it being like, let's say an hour. So you have your morning wake up that's happening. I don't know if you said what time it's happening, but you have your morning wake up, make it be clear, like lights on in the room. There's a feeding, there's a short wake period. So from initial wake up to down, maybe think about 1 hour. And then take her into the room where she's sleeping. So, like her nursery, ideally, turn off the lights, get her drowsy but awake. So, rock her to a comfortable state, slow eyelid blink, but not asleep. And actually, not even too drowsy. I'm going to actually shift this on you a little bit. Um, think about relaxed and awake. So, have her relaxed, but not even super heavy eyelid blink, like relaxed and totally aware that you're putting her in the crib. Put her in the crib. You don't have to run out. Stay with her, support her, shush her, put your hand on your chest, pop that pacifier in. See if you can help her get to sleep in the crib. Try it. If she gets upset, pick her up, reset, put her back down. Try it either like 3 attempts or 15 minutes, whichever kind of comes first if it's not coming together. Then rock her to sleep and then put her in the crib. Start with that and then try to build on your success. The other place you could test out if you move bedtime up and that seems easier, try that out. For some babies, bedtime's the easiest because they have the strongest pull to sleep. For other babies, it's the hardest because they're tired. It's the end of the day and it's the hardest window to learn a new skill. But if it happens to be easy, try bedtime. Otherwise, start with that first nap of the day. So hopefully that would help. Oh, the other thing that can help you with the longer stretch at night, or so. So I think you're talking about the hour or so is at bedtime. Hold on. She sleeps really well. Okay, hopefully that's a good starting point. And then don't feed more during the I would try to make sure during the night you're not feeding too frequently. So even if she's needing some extra help, if she's regressing as to how often she's waking at night, don't start introducing all those feedings. So if she was previously, I think what this says, if I understand it correctly, she previously woke 2 times a night. Think about maybe feeding, assuming she's healthy and thriving and your pediatrician doesn't have growth concerns, every 4 hours during the night. And then if she's up more frequently than every 4 hours, you can help her get back to sleep, but you're not going to feed her every single time. So that'd be another tip. Okay. I think this is Trisha G. Carp is the handle, I think. My 2.5-year-old is still in a crib and calls out for at least 1 or 2 times a night. Then she'll wake up between 5 and 6 a.m. She takes at least 1 nap a day, usually from 12:30 to 3. How can we get her to sleep through the night with a wake up time of 6 at the earliest? We try to keep night wakes to a minimum, no more than a minute or so of consoling her and leaving the room. I believe we also just experienced her first night terror, which also may complicate things. Okay, are you on here live? If you are, happen to be here, can you tell me what time she's going to bed? So you didn't have that in here. Okay. My first thought here is possibly, oh yes, you are here live. Okay, tell me about what time her bedtime is. So I am not opposed to the 12:30 to 3 nap. Because you're at the kind of 2.5-hour mark, which I generally think is fine. One thing it's not be like the first thing I jump to. You may at some point need to cap it to 2 hours. So you can experiment with that. Like what happens if we cap that nap at 2 hours of sleep versus 2.5? But I certainly work with plenty of 2.5-year-olds who really still benefit from a 2.5-hour nap. So that's just one thing to throw out there. But I want you to move bedtime up. So even with the 12:30 to 3, well, let's say we're not starting with the nap. The night terror is my big red flag and why I don't want to start with the nap. Night terrors, I'm actually going to do a podcast episode on night terrors somewhere here in the first quarter. It's in our plan. Night terrors can have various triggers. They can be triggered by stress and all those things. But also, The cure for them is more sleep. So I work with a lot of kids who deal with night terrors and nightmares, sleepwalking, sleep talking, all those things. Those are big red flags that we're not getting enough sleep. And so before we cut the nap down, I would cap it at 2.5 hours, but then I would move bedtime up. So think about lights out by 7, but on rough days, she wakes up at 4:30. So she'll nap at 10:30 to 12. Okay, don't let her do that. We're holding to our windows of when you sleep. So do not let her take that early nap. So she's got to make it into the 12 to 12:30 window. That is her window to go down. And then she can sleep up to 2.5 hours. And then I want her lights out by 7. So that, and then not up before 6. A couple other things to think about with up before 6. My first goal is always like, what are we going to do to help her naturally sleep until 6? That's the ultimate goal. So we have that, and that's shifting some of the schedule. And then the next piece, there's a behavioral piece that you're dealing with her kind of sounding like she wants to be up during the night and needing a lot of assistance. So hopefully that schedule shift will help her sleep more soundly. Did you say at least 1 or 2 a night? So my hope is that it'll help her sleep a little more soundly, but it may not be a cure-all because wakings are natural, just like you might wake during the night, she might wake during the night. But it's how we handle them. So I would, if you haven't already, introduce the green light. I like the hatch because we could control it from our phone. I want a room to be totally dark. Night lights can cause night wakings, but it's time to sleep until your light turns green. And then have that set at 6 and do not get her up before then. If you decide to pull the plug before 6 and get her up, make sure you go on your phone and you turn that light green. So every time you're going to get her up at the end of a nap at home, if she always naps at home, fine. But at the end of a home nap and in the morning, it's always, oh my gosh, look, the light is green. That means it's time to get up. And every bedtime, it's time to sleep until your light turns green. And so that can be a help as well. And then you may still need to implement some sort of intervention, like plan for the middle of the night. And so if you need help with that, I already mentioned it on here today because someone mentioned they already bought it, but I do have a $27 on-demand workshop that would be really good for this type of situation called How to Quickly Recover from a Sleep Regression that you can find on my website, sleepandwellnesscoach.com, under workshops, that will walk you through like really specific language to use around, well, it just walks you through a lot of how to prep this age group for good sleep, and then language to use around bedtime and middle of the night wakings. And so that could be helpful if just doing that schedule shift isn't quite enough. If it's not your cure-all, check that out. Okay. Kelsey, which I just learned, you have another baby, which is news to me. Okay. Kelsey said, hi, Allison. We have another infant. Haven is 1 week old, and I would love to get your take on a very basic outline for the next couple of months. Right now, she will sleep most of the day and tends to be wide awake after her 9 to 10 p.m. feeding until 2 a.m. or so. Is there anything we can tweak during the day so that she at least sleeps a little bit in that nighttime window? Yes. Okay. So first of all, congratulations on your growing family. And I know you sent me a message that said I can never get rid of you, and I have no desire to get rid of you. love when my people keep having babies. Okay. So I wish you'd been on my newborn class because we talked about this situation with another baby. You are in the classic window for day-night confusion. And my first tip is to kind of have a designated wake window, which I know this is going to be like really painful advice when you're like, hello, we're up from, 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. But think about, we're starting our day at 8 a.m., 8:30 at the latest, but generally I say 8, because we need to help her body register like natural light, daytime. That's when we want to take shorter, I don't want like micro naps, but like shorter stretches of sleep, and then dark outside, dark room, that's when we want to take longer stretches of sleep. And so the best way to do that is think about um you can ease into this. You're only one week in, so you don't have to like dive right in. But in theory, this is what you'd be trying to work towards. From that 9 to 10 p.m. feeding on, you want to have her in the dark. And so even if you're having to hold her and help her, we don't want to be like up in the well-lit family room hanging out if we can avoid it, if our mental health can handle it. We want to kind of have her in the dark and be like, no, sister, yeah, I'll be here and help you and support you, but like, we're in a dark room because time to sleep, girl. And so be in that dark room all the way till 8 a.m. And then 8 a.m., even if she didn't really fall into a good sleep until 2 a.m., I'd be like, ding, ding, ding. Now we got to get up. And not that she has to stay up for long, but I want you to like turn on the lights and have a short little wake period, like have her be up and we're not like tiptoeing around. So like wake her up, start her day, even though I'm sure her wake window is very short. And then from 8 a.m. until that 9-10 feeding, have her nap in a naturally lit room or room with the lights on. We're not trying to have her in the dark. So, you know, you don't have to like turn every bright light on, but shades open, a room with some good natural light, and have those naps happen in the light. And then today is freezing because I already died walking the dogs when it was 15 degrees. But on a good day where it's like acceptable, you feel like it's acceptable for you two to be outside, walk her in the late afternoon. Like take her on a walk out in that stroller and the baby carrier and go out, even if it's just for 10 or 15 minutes, and walk in that late afternoon. So like I'm talking 4 o'clock. Go on an outside walk because that helps the brain. And truly being outside, there's the benefit to the natural light coming through the window, but they are not created equal. So when we can, we want the natural light through the window throughout the day, but there's so much power to that late afternoon. Get outside, really let her eyes take in where the sun is in the sky, and it starts to help set that circadian rhythm. And then this usually passes by about 6 weeks, so you might still have a few more weeks of it. But focus on that. And then if she's really trying to sleep long stretches of sleep during the day and not at night, also don't let her sleep for any more than 2 hours for any given stretch during the day. Because I don't want her to soak up all the long stretches she needs during the daytime so that then she's trying to take naps at night. So think about capping any nap during the day at 2 hours. So hopefully that helps. Okay, let me scroll back up here. Those were all the pre-submitted questions. And go to, okay. Zelt Marva is the handle, I think. Said 14 months struggling with taking naps during the day. And do you recommend moving her to her own room? So, I would say kind of two different categories. So I'll start with the easier. Well, is it easy? I don't know. Moving her to her own room. If you tell me you have a 14-month-old who sleeps beautifully through the night and they're sleeping in your room and that is working for you, whether it's because of your house setup or you like having them share your room, great, fantastic. A lot of 14-month-olds are not going to sleep very well during the night, room sharing, because they wake up and they're like, hey, I see you there. Let's hang out. Get up. And so, yes, if your night's sleep is not great, I recommend moving her to her own room. But that's probably a separate situation than your naps would be my guess. And so I don't know if you're still on here, but I'm curious. Oh, here you said we moved the bedtime to 7:30, and it looks like a nap for her. She wakes up around 9, and it takes almost an hour to her get to sleep again, and she wakes up every night 2 or 3 times. Okay, well, I got my nighttime answer. Yes, move her to her own room. My other question is, when are her naps? Like, when she's not napping, are we talking about 1 nap, 2 naps? What time? How long are they? I'm hoping you're still here. Oh, you're welcome, Kelsey. Oh, you are here, it looks like. Okay, let me know what time the naps are and how long they are. So, just generally, I like to see kids stay on 2 naps until as close to 15 months as we can. Now, every child's unique, and so there's certainly times where we can't keep them on 2 naps because they've matured beyond that. And then there are also kids who will happily stay on 2 naps. I started with a baby who was staying on 3 naps longer than I typically see. That's how this whole nap chat started today. And there are kids who will stay on 2 naps until 18 months is kind of my hard cutoff if it's not negatively impacting sleep. But 15 months is usually kind of when I most often help clients make the transition. But there's an interesting thing that happens between 12 and 15 months. There is a developmental change as it relates to daytime sleep and how much kids need. And so that's why the timing and how long each nap comes into play. Okay, you said we are trying in naps for 2 hours between 12 or latest 4 p.m. But some days she only sleeps 45 minutes or 20. Okay, I want you to be consistent. So if the best route right now might be to just do 1 nap. So here's what you could test out. Either do a 9:30 first nap. Okay, you move bedtime up. Okay, I would say wake by 7 a.m. Offer a 9:30 first nap. If she's not asleep by 10, get her up, put her back down at noon. And that is her 1 midday nap. If she does fall asleep for that between 9:30 and 10 a.m., you cap that nap at 1 hour of sleep, and then you put her down for her second nap at 2:30. And from that second nap, I want her up by 4. And if she just took the noon nap, then she's not napping again. And then think about the goal is for her to get between usually 2 to 2.5 hours, or 2 to 3, between 2 to 3 hours of sleep total in the day is the goal. If she's getting under that, I would put her to bed between 6 and 6:30. If she's in that range and doesn't seem tired, test out kind of 6:30 to 7. And so trying to settle into a consistent schedule is helpful. If you practice this, if you 3 days in a row, you're like, I didn't get the first nap, just switch to 1 midday nap and have it start at noon. Just going to forge ahead to noon, even if she wakes up at 4:30, because what we're saying is, here's your window to sleep. So we're either giving her 2 daytime windows to sleep and a nighttime window, or we're saying, here's your 1 midday window to sleep. And then your bedtime, either a rescue bedtime or a normal bedtime in that 6 to 7 window. And then here's your window to sleep at night. So test that out. And then shifting her to her room can sometimes provide some natural relief as well. And then you may need to do some kind of sleep training for the behavioral stuff, in the sense that now she has clear expectations of what she thinks happens around sleep or what she gets from you. And so if making those schedule changes and shifting her room doesn't provide full relief, this is a perfect example of where we could be helpful to you, either through typically through a one-on-one consultation. So if that's ever of interest, you can learn more about that at sleepandwellnesscoach.com. Okay, let me scroll back up and see if there were any other pre-submitted questions. Da, da, da. I got that one. Oh, you're welcome so much. I'm glad this was helpful. Okay. I think I got to all of the questions, which is great. Let me just refresh over here and make sure. And I think I got them all. All right. I also wanted to let you all know when my next nap chat is. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I do this every month. And my next nap chat is going to be Friday, February 20th at 12 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, if you're interested in learning how you can work with me or Sophie or Ellen, who are the sleep coaches on my team, or any of the online workshops or programs I have, you can learn more at sleepandwellnesscoach.com. And you can also check out the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts called How Long Till Bedtime. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Bye for now.